Hello everyone and welcome to Retail Archaeology. Today we'll be returning to Power Square Mall. It's been about a year and a half since my last video on this mall, and as you can see, the construction on the storage facility has actually been completed. The last time I looked at this place, it looked like this project had stalled. But you can see that's one of the old mall entrances there, and it's just been replaced with just some ugly old doors. Another update on this mall is that even though the Vanity Fair outlet store sign is still up, it just recently closed, unfortunately. So this mall is now anchorless. Let's go ahead and head into the mall and see what it looks like inside. Here's a map and directory on the outside, and I believe this is new. These look pretty nice actually. I don't remember them being here the last time I was here. But it's nice to be able to see everything that's in there before you even walk in, since it is so small. Now this was filmed shortly after Christmas, so you are going to see some Christmas decor and stuff up. And I'm very glad to see that the coin-operated rides are still here. I love seeing that knockoff Batmobile. The Batmobile might have looked better in that color scheme if they had done that originally. You can see they've got a banner hanging up here advertising the stuff that's still left in the mall. It says vintage. There's a couple of antique stores down at the end, which we'll take a closer look at. This really is one of my favorite little dead malls to visit. I'm glad to see that it is still open. Things were looking pretty grim for it back when I filmed this place about a year and a half ago. And they're still keeping the plants alive. Those are real plants, so that's good. Now this doesn't look like an actual store. I believe somebody's just using that to sell those sandals on the internet and then using it as like a shipping and storage facility, but it isn't vacant, so that's good. And also it looks like this popcorn counter is still open. It is closed on Sundays, but from what I understand, this is still in business as well. But as you can see, this half of the mall is fairly quiet. Everything's actually occupied down there. It's just not businesses that are open as stores normally. And also, unfortunately, the Mesa Public Library branch that was here is also gone. That closed not too long ago. There was a big storm that blew through, and the roof kind of collapsed and flooded the whole library, so unfortunately they weren't able to save it. And this spot here is where the VF Factory outlet store used to be. If you've seen my previous videos on this mall, you'll remember that there were like clothing racks and all kinds of things right outside the door, so it kind of crowded this area. And thankfully there was an opening in the paper over the windows down here at the bottom, so we can see what it looks like empty. It's a shame to see it like this. We used to do a lot of back to school shopping here when I was a kid. Now, I'm actually surprised that the VF Factory closed. It was like the busiest thing in this mall, and not, I wouldn't even call it dead. There was usually quite a bit of business, so I'm assuming, unfortunately, the pandemic is what killed it off. It is nice and bright in here thanks to the skylights. We're standing in front of the entrance for the old VF Factory outlet, and that wall that you see there across the other side, that was the wall that was put up to block off the rest of the mall from what is now the storage facility. It's nice to see that they decorated for Christmas. There's actually a little Christmas tree here and everything. Now, I was surprised to see the tables and chairs still here, because I know that the Gala Apple, which was right there at that empty counter, has been closed for a while. So there's really no reason to have tables and chairs anymore to eat. And also with the pandemic, I'm used to seeing all of those kind of cleared out of food courts anyways. I was surprised to see that when we took a closer look at the old Gala Apple counter that there's a new business that's going to be moving in here. And it looks like it's going to be some sort of meat market or butcher shop, which is really weird. That's, I think, going to be the first time I've ever seen anything like that inside a dead mall before. But I am really interested in seeing how it looks when it's all set up, so I am going to be paying this mall a visit again once I know that this is open so I can take a look at it. That's one of my favorite storefronts. The sign just says woman. That's leftover signage from one of the old outlet stores that was here. I overall like the industrial look and feel of this mall, but I just wish they would update a few things like the flooring, for example. It is so worn out and beat up. Probably a different shade of color on the walls would look better too. I'm also happy to see that there's been some new businesses that have moved into this mall. I believe all the storefronts except for the VF factory are occupied now, which is great. I got a good laugh at the name of this one though, Celestial Moon. Isn't that things that have to do with the moon? That just seems kind of repetitive. But it looks like this is some sort of tarot reading place, maybe similar to the one that used to exist at Paradise Valley Mall that was kind of Egyptian themed. That was the first time I'd ever seen, this kind of business in a mall before, so it's interesting to see another one here. I wonder if we'll see a rise in psychics at old malls. Now, thankfully, my two favorite stores are still here as well, East Valley Antiques and Catalina Antiques. I love poking around these stores. This is Catalina Antiques, and as you can see, it looks just kind of like your standard antique store. Which is not a bad thing. Like I said, I love picking through these things. There's always interesting things to find and look at. And even though these are both, inside a mall, they're fairly decent size. This was pretty interesting to find. This is a lava lamp from Spencer Gifts. I don't know whether or not I should start feeling super old now that this kind of stuff is showing up in antique shops. But there's the Spencer's logo down there. I kind of wish I had bought this. I may go back and see if it's still there. And of course they've got vinyl records, and of course Mark's got to flip through them. I found this one though, this Huckleberry Hound record. This was pretty cool to find. I used to watch a lot of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons when I was a kid. I always find these cartoon records kind of neat. And here's another one from Disney. This one's actually a 2-record set. Vintage Disney stuff is some of my favorite stuff to look at antique stores like this. I like this little football player too. This is from Tomy Toys, although I'm not familiar with this particular toy. I'm not sure if it works anymore either. I'm guessing it was supposed to, have the chest kind of bob up and down as it rolled. Now let's pop over into East Valley Antiques and see what interesting things we can find there. And immediately I spotted this repeat game from Radio Shack. It's like a generic Simon basically, and I had to get that. This store is great too because they have lots of vintage Disney stuff to look at. They have a whole case full of it. Some of this stuff looks fairly old too. There's things from several different decades in here. Hey, I have that Disney Afternoon set. That's hanging on my wall right now. There's a Jiminy Cricket violin down there, or fiddle. Wonder how old that is. Now this was cool. This is Petrie from The Land Before Time, and these were like vinyl hand puppets you could get from Pizza Hut when I was a kid. I have the Littlefoot puppet, so I'm gonna have to grab this so he has a friend. Oh, there's all kinds of other great vintage toys on the other side of the case. Look, there's the Barbie Mustang up there. Some old Fisher-Price stuff. I really do love both of these stores, and I'm glad that they've both survived. I was really worried about this mall, and even though the VF Factory outlet anchor is closed, it looks like this place is going to hang on. It's a neat Pepsi sign there. It's lighted. Here's an electrical science kit from Remco. And it says it's absolutely safe on it. That's reassuring. But this looks like a kind of a much older version of those Radio Shack electronics kits that you used to be able to get in the 80s and 90s. This is pretty neat. I like looking at a lot of the old kitchen stuff too, because you see products that don't really exist. Like, this looks like some sort of slide rule for, baking and cooking measurement conversions. But I haven't seen anything like that in anybody's kitchen. Not recently. I guess you just look that up on your smartphone now. I really do love this mall though, because I get to visit one of my favorite dead malls, which is one of my favorite things to do, and then I get to also visit some antique stores and pick through those, which I love to do. And thankfully, despite the setbacks, it looks like this place is going to survive, at least for the time being. The construction on the storage place was completed. Almost everything is occupied in here. I'm just really curious to see what goes into the old anchor spot of the VF Factory outlet. That's going to wrap up this update on Power Square Mall though. As always, thanks for watching. Psych! We're not done yet. We've got to take a look at the stuff I picked up at the antique store. This first thing is a little Voltron action figure. I didn't point this out in the video because I kind of panned past it real quickly, but this was something that I actually had as a kid. I never had any of the bigger Voltron toys, but I did have this one, and I kind of completely forgotten about it until I saw it in the antique store. But as you can see, it comes completely apart. Although I'm not really sure what you were supposed to do with the pieces, because they don't really transform into the lions any further than that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think the one that I had as a kid ended up getting chewed up by our dog, at least like one of the arms and one of the legs, and that's why we got rid of it. I also grabbed this Petrie hand puppet from the Land Before Time movies that Pizza Hut released. I still have the Littlefoot puppet that I had from when I was a kid, so now he's got a friend to sit up on the shelf with him. And then the last thing I grabbed was this electronic pocket repeat game from Radio Shack. This is basically just a miniature generic Simon game. I really do like all the little miniature electronic games from Radio Shack. And I've seen this one before in like the catalog pages and stuff, but I've never seen it in person, so it's kind of neat to have it now. I also used to really like to play Simon, so it's cool to have a little handheld version of it. And this one's complete. It actually has the instruction manual as well. And I was surprised to see that the cover is in color. Although there's really not much to it because it's just Simon, so don't really need a lot of instructions for it. I was really hopeful that it still actually worked. I have about 50-50 luck on these actually working when I buy them, so I went ahead and grabbed a 9-volt battery and had a little bit of trouble getting the battery cover off. It was a little tight, which worried me. I thought maybe there was an exploded battery in there, but it's clean, so that's a good sign. And we'll just go ahead and pop the 9-volt battery in. And let's flip it on and see if it works. And it does. It's lighting up and making sounds. We'll go ahead and pick game 1 and the beginner mode here. And yeah, it looks like it works perfectly. This is awesome. Before we wrap the video up for real this time, I do want to really quickly plug my second channel, the RA2 Channel, and I'll put a link down in the description to it. But that is my second channel, and I do a lot of videos on little things like this, like these silly little electronics games and retro video games and things like that. So if those are things that interest you, please make sure to check out the RA2 Channel. And as always, for real this time, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/Retail Archaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my update video on Power Square Mall and the first episode of Retail Archaeology for 2021. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also follow these social media links down there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the channel.